Morning, everybody. Welcome to Moving Markets. Today is May the 31st, 2019. Last day of May, last day of our official formal tribute to all the military personnel that are currently serving, that have served, especially those that have given their lives in defense of our country. We've included all month long a shout out to the men and women in blue. This is the bluest thing I could wear, the bluest item I have in my entire wardrobe. So we wanted to give a shout out also to the men and women in blue. I know not every police uniform in every county, in every state, in every city is blue, but I think oftentimes we refer to the men and women that wear the law enforcement uniforms of our various counties and states and so forth. We refer to them as the men and women in blue, and so we've included them as well as our firefighters. And we here at Safe Option Strategies, here at Moving Markets. Safe Option Strategies is my company that teaches stock and option trading. Here at Safe Option Strategies and on our Moving Markets podcast that you're listening to right now, we have a tremendous respect for you and for what you do, and we appreciate it greatly. So as a final tribute, thank you sincerely for everything you've done. Let's talk about the markets today. What is moving the markets today? Tariffs. That is moving the markets today. Yesterday, after the U.S. stock market closed, Donald Trump made an announcement. He hinted towards it early in the day. He said there's going to be a big announcement on the border. And what he said was basically this: Mexico, you've got 10 days to get your act together and to do something definitive to slow down the flow of illegal migrants coming to our southern border. And if you don't do something that satisfies me, we're going to start imposing a 5% tariff on everything coming out of Mexico. Now, we've talked about tariffs before. In this program, I've talked often, especially in the last few weeks, I've talked often about tariffs. Tariffs are a very two-sided thing. It is not an automatic that tariffs are just going to affect the country that they're imposed on. We get a lot of products shipped to us from Mexico that are from U.S. companies, and they are manufactured in Mexico. One of the biggest ones is automobiles. I don't think a lot of U.S. citizens realize how many automobiles are manufactured in Mexico, even when it's a U.S. company like Ford, General Motors, Dodge. You know, these are U.S. auto manufacturers, and there's a fair amount of the building of these automobiles that takes place here in the United States. But a lot of U.S. made automobiles are actually manufactured and assembled in Mexican automotive plants and then shipped back here across the border. So your automobile stocks, Ford, General Motors, they're taking big hits today, and they're dragging down companies like Toyota and others with them. They're taking a big hit because this is tough for automobile makers. And it's not just U.S. automobiles. It's like U.S. auto companies. It's Honda and Toyota and Hyundai. I mean, they all have plants that are in Mexico that assemble the product there and ship it across the border. And that tariff gets attached or applied to anything that gets shipped across the border. It doesn't matter if it's a Mexican-owned company that is shipping its products here for sale. It doesn't matter if it is a U.S.-owned company that is having something manufactured there and shipped over here for sale. The tariffs hit either way. So when it is a U.S. company, they're not going to just eat that cost. Now 5%. Let's put it in context. I saw something yesterday that again tried to make the claim that a 10% tariff or a 5% tariff was a 10 to 15% increase to the consumer. And that's, I hate people that get away with blatantly, intentionally lying about stuff like that. When they say it, they know it's not true. They know it is a scare tactic. It is fear mongering. It's an attempt to make a bigger story than what is actually there. There's no question that when the tariff hits, some of that cost could get passed along to the U.S. consumer. There's no question about that. I'm not debating that. I will agree with everyone that the U.S. the average U.S. consumer can feel it in the pocketbook when a tariff is hit. But a 5% tariff on an automobile, I don't know. I didn't research before I got online. I didn't look up what the average markup is from the cost of making a car to the cost of selling a car. Okay, I will tell you this. I believe when you go into a dealership and you negotiate the price of a car, if you're talking about, let's talk about Ford trucks, okay? The starting price, the low-end starting price on a Ford F-150 truck that is not fully loaded but is brand new is probably in the neighborhood of $35,000. And maybe I'm being generous in saying $35,000. Okay, you go into a dealer and they've got your dealer incentives of $3,000, and you've got special cashback offer of $2,000. And at the end of the day, that $35,000 automobile might cost you $30,000. That alone means that there's wiggle room in the price. Now what Ford is charging the dealer, because the dealer that you walk into may be a Ford dealer, but it's owned by someone else. Here in the state of Utah, where I'm at, one of the most recognizable, it's not the only, and I don't even know if they're the biggest in the area, but one of the most recognizable names of auto dealerships is Larry H. Miller. Larry Miller died a number of years ago. He was the owner of the Utah Jazz. Great community guy. Love Larry Miller. Love the Miller family. Because I'm a big Utah Jazz fan. So I love the family. I love what they've done for our community, well beyond just the basketball and the owning of the Utah Jazz team. But it's a very recognizable name, Larry H. Miller. Larry H. Miller is not a company owned by Ford Motors. It's not like Ford Motors is putting together a Ford truck, bringing it across the border, putting it on one of Larry H. Miller's auto lots, their car lots, and that's all part of one big company. There is a price that they're selling that truck to the Miller organization, and then the Miller organization they know what it costs them to have their buildings. They know what it costs them to employ their employees. They know what it costs them to pay commissions. They know the cost of advertising. They know all of this. They have all of this down to a science. This is what they do. This is why they employ so many people that are constantly figuring this stuff out and calculating this stuff. They know how all of this works. So they know, here's the price Ford gives the truck to us for. Here's what we have to sell it just to cover our costs of being in business. And then, of course, whatever above they can sell it for, that they make profit on. So all of that is baked in when you go and buy that automobile. The 5% tariff is not 5% markup on the price that you are paying for the automobile. It is going to hit the Miller organization or whatever. If you're out in Denver, it's I think John Elway owns a bunch of car dealerships out in the Denver area and throughout Colorado. It's the same thing. Go any place you go in the United States, whatever the name of that car dealership is, they're the ones that are going to get hit with that 5%. They are going to pay that 5%. On a 35, I'm guessing here, I might be off on my numbers, but it's the principle I want to get across. On a $35,000 automobile, let's say hypothetically that the Miller organization pays $20,000 for that car. That's what gets the 5% tariff. $20,000 times 5% means $1,000 markup. So if you're going to go in and buy that automobile for $35,000 times 5% is $1,750. You're not going to pay $1,750 more dollars for that automobile. You might pay $1,000 more, and that's if the auto dealership, if the Miller organization in Utah, if the Elway organization in Denver, whatever big car dealership is in your area, if they are unwilling to absorb part of that, and they don't have to absorb the whole thing. It's understandable that they may want to pass some of that along to the consumer. But I just told you, on a new automobile, oftentimes you go in and buy a new automobile and you've got, the cash back and the incentives and this and this and that. They've got room to absorb that. Instead of giving you $2,000 cash back, maybe they give you $1,000 cash back, and there's the 5%. It's gone. So and I saw someone put in print yesterday that a 5% tariff on automobiles, 5% tariff on everything coming out of Mexico is going to be 15 or 20% more that you're going to pay at the grocery store for avocados or at the car dealership. It's not the case. That's an absolute lie. I'm not going to be polite and say they're misleading or they're not explaining it correct. They're lying to you. I forget the political correct nonsense and crap. They are lying to you, plain and simple. It's fear mongering. It's trying to stoke anger over policies. Look, I don't know that a 5% tariff on everything coming out of Mexico is the right thing to do. I don't know that it's the best move. I don't know that it's not. I'm not an economist. I understand the stock market, and maybe I could go back and get a degree in economics and be an economist, but I understand how a lot of this stuff works. I don't pretend to be perfect in my knowledge of how it works. I don't pretend to know every single nuance, but this is one thing that I do know. Mexico will also take a hit on this. They will have Mexican companies that are bringing their products over here that are in fact going to get hit with that tariff, and we're going to buy stuff from other places if we have to pay 5% on an extra 5% on what's coming out of Mexico. Mexican companies are going to have to eat some of that 5% when that tariff is slapped on them. That's a simple fact of the matter. It's going to happen. We're going to get hit with some of it, but they're going to get hit with some of it also. And they don't want that. They don't want to get stung with that. They don't want to get dragged into the same trade war that we're in with China right now, or a separate trade war. We're going to have a new term that I don't know if we've ever had. We're going to have the first ever World War I, but it's going to be TWW1. It's going to be Trade World War I. Because it looks like we're going to suck everybody in the world into our trade war. I'm not going to say if that's good or bad. I think we've got to stand up to China, and if tariffs is the way to do it, so be it. I'll be behind that. I'll support that. Standing up to Mexico is this entire tariff move is about the border. It's about getting Mexico to play a bigger role in slowing down or stopping the flow of illegal immigrants coming across the border. There are basically three ways they could do this. And I think these tariffs are set to go into effect on June 10th. It's only 5%, okay, not the end of the world. As a consumer, we might feel it to the tune of 1 or 2%, if that. We're not going to suddenly have a shortage of avocados, and the price of avocados is not going to double. I saw somebody tweet yesterday that, and I know they were being sarcastic. I get sarcasm. I'm a sarcastic person most of the time. But they tweeted something to the effect of, the avocado toast is gonna be overpriced now. Well, guess what? Considering what the price of an avocado is and the price of a piece of toast, avocado toast is already ridiculously overpriced when you go to a restaurant and actually pay for it. But anyway, back to the problem. There are three things Mexico can do to stem the tide of illegal immigration. These aren't necessarily in order. I think they need to do all three of these. And I think, in fact, I know, because he made it very transparent. Donald Trump's goal is to get Mexico to do one or all three of these things. Either do one of them very aggressively or start to do all three of them. And they don't. There's not an expectation that the problem is going to be fixed tomorrow. That Mexico will do something today and illegal immigration at our southern border will be over tomorrow. That's not the expectation. What Trump wants is to see Mexico be willing to take some steps and start to take some steps to be much more aggressive. We have a border between us and Mexico that is more than 2,000 miles long. I don't remember the exact mileage, but it's more than 2,000 miles long. Mexico shares a border with Guatemala. I'm pretty sure it's Guatemala, the northernmost of the Central American countries. You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm already fearful that I'm looking like a fool just for not knowing that. Guatemala. I'm typing in Guatemala into my maps here. I'm pretty sure it's Guatemala. Yeah, okay. All right. It is, in fact, Guatemala. Okay, Guatemala, the northernmost Central American country that shares that direct border with Mexico. That border between Guatemala and Mexico is probably less than 1/4 the size of the border with the United States and Mexico. And Mexico traditionally has done little or nothing to keep Central and Southern American migrants, not immigrants, they're migrants. They've done nothing, or they've done very little to stop those migrants from coming through Mexico. Okay, those people have a long journey. I don't know exactly what the distance is from the Guatemala-Mexico border to the U.S.-Mexico border, but it's a long journey. It's 1,500 plus miles. It may be 2,000 plus miles. They have a long way to go to get through the country of Mexico and get all the way to the U.S. border. Mexico does little or nothing to stop them in the process. They have it would be easier for them to stop it at their southern border than it is for us to stop it. And even if they couldn't stop it completely, they can do something. They can do more. It's more of a choke point than we have at our southern border. That's one thing that they can do. Again, these aren't necessarily in order of importance. They all need to be done. That's one thing Mexico could do. Number two, Mexico could do more at our shared border with Mexico. You've got video footage of people crossing over into the United States with Mexican authorities standing there watching it happen. They don't care. By the time the Central and Southern and South American migrants have reached our southern border, Mexico wants them gone. Mexico doesn't want the problem of these individuals staying in their country. They don't want to hassle. They want it to be our problem. They see what it's doing to our economy. They see the drain it is financially on our healthcare system, on our schools, on our welfare system, on our court system, our law system, everything. It affects every single part of our lives here in a negative way. And I'm not saying the people themselves are not. I'm not saying the people are negative. I'm not saying they're bad people. There are a lot of bad people that are taking advantage of the situation and trying to mix themselves in with those more innocent individuals and trying to get here. Don't ever think that's not happening. But I'm not saying that all these people coming across are bad. What I'm saying is they're breaking our law. They're coming into our country illegally, and they're taking advantage of and draining our resources at our expense. That's coming out of my tax dollars. My taxes would be less. I would be paying less money to the federal government. You would be paying less money to the federal government if it weren't for all of the illegal immigrants coming through our southern border. Mexico does nothing. They don't want that problem. They're unwilling to shut it off at their southern border, and they're okay with it being our problem. So that's the second thing they've got to do. Now, as it relates specifically to Mexican citizens, because it's not all Central and South America, that has been the biggest increase and the biggest influx in recent years, is the people fleeing Central America and South America, socialist regimes and communist regimes, and trying to come north. But there are plenty of Mexican citizens that are also trying to get into our border. And when they come across our border, and we try and send them back, Mexico's not taking them. Mexico will not instantly repatriate them. They are making it our problem. And what we ended up having to do is this ridiculous catch and release thing. We stop them. We take them to a court. We say, shame on you. You're here illegally. You're going to have to appear in court and make your case for asylum. But in the meantime, go do whatever the hell you want, anywhere you want in our country. Oh, and by the way, if you never show up on the date we give you in court, well, go find a sanctuary city. You'll get a lawyer from the ACLU. You'll get a lawyer from the Southern Poverty Law Center. You'll have lawyers coming out your rear end wanting to defend you and keep you in our country illegally. So, we don't care if you ever really come back to court and show up for your court date or not. That's what's going on. A lot of that could be stemmed and curbed if Mexico would say, look, as far as it relates to a Mexican citizen, if you catch them and you send them right back across the border, we'll immediately repatriate them. We'll say, hey, you're still a citizen of Mexico, and they caught you and they sent you back, and good for them. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what we ought to be doing down at our southern border. These are not, I'm not going to say logistically there's not some challenges with this. It'll take some work logistically, but these are not hard things to do. These are simple things to do. These are the right thing to do. This is what Mexico should have been doing all along. So are there other things that could be done other than tariffs? I don't know. That's not my field of expertise. Are the tariffs going to be enough to motivate Mexico to do this? I don't know. Not my field of expertise. Does Mexico need to do something? Absolutely, yes, they do. Does the United States need to do something to compel Mexico to do something? Yeah, we do. We do. And if tariffs work, then hallelujah, thank heavens for the tariffs. I think they will. I think what people see in Donald Trump is a willingness to do something that no other administrations, no other presidents, no other politicians have been willing to do. And that is confront the problem head on. You've got 99% of the people, probably 99.9% of all of your elected officials in Washington, D.C. who talk and don't do. They love to talk. They love to hear their own voices. They love to get on the floor of the Senate, get on the floor of the House. They love to give their speeches. They love it even more when there's a camera in front of them. These are egomaniacs. 99% of them are egomaniacs. They don't run for politics to help their constituents. They run for the perks. They run for the power. They run for the prestige, for the celebrity. They run to satisfy their egos, and they go to Washington, D.C., and they don't do a damn thing. They don't get anything accomplished ever. They fight with the other political party. They get their smug faces on TV as often as they can, and they accomplish nothing. Now you've got a guy like Donald Trump comes in, and does he have an ego? Absolutely, he has an ego. Does he probably like to see himself on TV and hear his own voice? Yeah, probably he does. There are some similarities, but the difference is he wants to get things done. I absolutely believe that. Whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, he wants to get things done, and he is getting things done. And he is confronting these problems that other presidents have not confronted, and he's hitting them head on. He's taking on China. No one has ever wanted to do that. They talk a big game, but they don't do a single thing. He's taking on China. Now he's taking on Mexico. He's taking them on hard. He's saying, look, our politicians aren't going to do jack. They're not going to do anything down at the border. They're a bunch of, I've said my piece on that. They're a bunch. We have a do-nothing political system in Washington, D.C., except spend our money. That's the one thing they're good at, is spending our money and finding new ways to take our money. But he's come along and he said, enough is enough. I am going to do something. And he's doing it. And I tip my hat to him for that. And I'm fired up enough that I better calm down and end right here. I hope everyone has a great weekend. The markets are all down. Let's get a quick check before we sign off. Dow's down less than 200 points now. So it's at its highest point of the day, but still down pretty dramatically. NASDAQ down 61, S&P down 20. That's better than it was, but I don't think we're going to turn into positive territory today. We're going to end the 6th week in a row of the markets being down. And what's moving the markets? Tariffs, 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 tariffs. That is what's moving the markets. We'll be back on Monday. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.